Hi everyone, I'm Dr. Jacqui Zins. I'm a naturopathic doctor at Higher Health in North Toronto. In this short video, I want to talk to you about inflammation and the brain, how the two are connected, and how inflammation can impact your mental health. For the purposes of this video, we're talking about microscopic inflammation. And when there's microscopic inflammation, your brain's not going to hurt like an inflamed knee does, so it can be hard to tell what's happening. One of the most common symptoms of brain inflammation is actually brain fog, that feeling of slow or fuzzy thinking. Other common signs of brain inflammation include depression, anxiety, irritability or anger, as well as memory loss and again, fatigue. Of course, there are other factors that can cause these symptoms or other conditions as well, but some degree of inflammation is often involved. Okay, so inflammation can lead to these symptoms, but how exactly does it do that? So the way inflammation leads to brain fog is that it actually slows down the firing between neurons. Neurons are the communication pathways between your brain and nervous system cells. So these transmit signals and messages, and if that's slowed down, the overall operation of your brain is going to be slower, and that's what leaves you feeling foggy or dull. The way inflammation leads to mood disorders is through something called inflammatory cytokines. Inflammatory cytokines are these tiny SOS signals that are released by your cells when they're under distress. And what these inflammatory cytokines do is they actually disrupt the normal production of key neurotransmitters involved in mood and psychotic disorders. In the case of depression, inflammatory cytokines will hamper the production of serotonin, your main brain chemical that's important for feeling joy, well-being, and wakefulness. What also happens when there's high levels of inflammatory cytokines is that they shunt the use of tryptophan, a precursor to serotonin, instead towards the production of anxiety-producing chemicals. In fact, some interesting studies showed that levels of inflammatory cytokines were higher in those that had mood and psychotic disorders. Psychiatric researchers also found that patients with higher levels of inflammation are less likely to respond to antidepressants and more likely to respond to anti-inflammatories. So I thought that was pretty interesting too. Lastly, inflammation can lead to brain aging because it causes cell damage and death. That can put you at risk for diseases like Alzheimer's, dementia, Parkinson's, and neurodegenerative diseases. Okay, so we know inflammation is bad for the brain. Now let's focus on some solutions. The solution that I want to talk to you about is what we're putting into our body. So one of the most powerful ways that we can reduce inflammation and improve the brain chemical balance is through the food that we're eating, what we're putting into our bodies, because ultimately that's where those brain chemicals are coming from. So first of all, it's super important to identify which foods are setting your brain on fire. And this may be different for every individual. We all have our unique sensitivities, allergies, foods that aggravate us. And so working with a naturopathic doctor or a nutritionist to help identify which specific foods are setting your brain on fire can be really helpful. If we're going to talk generally about the modern day diet, two of the most powerful promoters of inflammation are refined vegetable oils and refined carbohydrates. So if you want to cool or quiet inflammation, steer clear of those things. Instead, I want you to focus on anti-inflammatory and antioxidant-rich foods. The three that I'm going to talk to you about today are number one, fatty fish. Things like salmon, mackerel, and sardines. Those are loaded with omega-3 fatty acids, which are amazing for lowering inflammation and for overall brain health. The second is dark leafy greens, things like kale, spinach, collard greens, and Swiss chard. Those also have a lot of antioxidants, vitamin C, and flavonoids that help protect against cell damage in the brain. The third is blueberries. Those are one of my favorite fruits. First of all, they're lower in sugar than other fruits, and they also have a lot of antioxidants that help fight inflammation. There are several diets that focus on these kinds of anti-inflammatory foods, one of them being the paleo diet. So that one I really like because I do find it quite flexible and easy to maintain in the long run, but there are other diets as well that do include these anti-inflammatory foods. Supplements, including nutrients and herbs, are other ways that you can reduce inflammation. So these should be really prescribed based on the person. Dosing is important, and making sure that you're taking the right supplement for your needs that takes into account your health history is of ultimate importance. So again, work with a naturopathic doctor who's trained to provide you individualized prescriptions. Anyways, I hope you found this video informative, and if you have any questions about inflammation or brain health, I'd be happy to chat with you in a free 15-minute consultation where we can discuss how to reduce inflammation, optimize your brain health, and ultimately help you feel your best.